Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today's podcast, we're covering the very first Disney movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves.
Yes, in our Classics Disney week. Our first ever.
Yeah.
Now this film was the beginning of many fantastic movies to come from the Walt Disney Company. And Walt's legacy started with his take on this classic fairy tale, Snow White. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, because we keep releasing some future podcasts and want to pause videos.
Yes, and thanks so much for joining, subscribing, sharing, commenting, everything. We appreciate you so much.
Yes.
So this movie actually premiered in 1937.
Ooh.
And it was considered a musical fantasy. But there are not a whole lot of musical numbers, unlike the movies that they put out now.
True.
This was a production between Walt Disney and released by RKO Radio Pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on the 1812 German fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm, whom we're all familiar with. And it was first animated feature film produced in the U.S. and the first cell animated feature film.
Wow. Cool.
So what's pretty interesting is this particular story was written by multiple people.
Oh, okay.
8 or 9 people to be exact.
Oh, wow. So they did this from the start.
And it had 8 directors as well.
Oh, my gosh.
What was really interesting is this movie had a budget in 1937 of $1.5 million. Now, that was a ton of money back then. It doesn't seem like it now, but that was a ton of money.
Mm.
What's even more brilliant is this movie made $418 million.
Oh my God.
Current Disney needs to take a lesson. Stop making movies that cost $200 to $300 million. Make movies like Godzilla -1 that cost $10 to $12 million, and then you'll get your $300 and $400 million, and you'll be making the kind of money you want. But when you're using an excessive amount of money so you can flex, or because you're compensating, whatever your reasons are,
right?
And then when you don't double that to $600 million or more, you're upset. Well, stop spending so much money on movies that don't need it.
Right.
Give us good stories. Give us good characters. Now back to Snow White. This movie, at the time it came out, was something that was so groundbreaking and so exciting for people to watch, because they had to go to theaters, of course, to see this movie.
Right.
Didn't see it on your TV screen like now.
Right. And it really was made for entertainment purposes. It was a pretty simple story. It wasn't even a 90-minute movie. It was actually less than that. And it had a very simple good versus evil, good always wins types storyline in here. And even it's so basic that, like you said, there are even a bunch of songs in here. One of them was cut out. I think they had maybe 2 to 3 songs in the whole movie. Everything else you heard was purely instrumental.
And the music in here that they did have was very lighty and flighty in terms of the musical numbers. But when they had the Queen on screen and when there was action taking place, they had the menacing music.
Right.
And what I used to love about Disney movies is that the music would fit whatever tone was going on perfectly. Now they're so busy trying to have the next hit and make a pop song
all the time.
The music normally doesn't fit, but this is a classic example of the superior excellence that Walt Disney was known for in movies.
Right.
The movies would take a very long time not only to be animated, but he was so concerned about getting everything perfect that it took a while for the movies to be produced. And they weren't trying to churn them out to get the new one.
Right.
And you love that about these older movies, because when you watch them now, some of them have been remastered where the color's beautiful. And you know that it's dated in terms of the time period. But it's still fun to watch. It's fun to see the little idiosyncrasies of the time period. It's fun listening to the voice actors and seeing the interaction between characters. And there are several things that we absolutely loved from this. And the first thing we're going to point out, you know this is coming, is the evil queen.
Yeah, the very first one.
Evil queen. This woman was not playing. When they showed her dungeon, she had skeletons everywhere. This woman had been taking people out. She wasn't playing.
And this was the first villain ever for Disney.
And she was beautiful. But she was so jealous of Snow White, she wanted to be the most beautiful. I guess she wanted to be the world's most beautiful woman, like in People magazine.
I guess so.
She wanted Snow White gone. She was fine, but no. This woman wasn't playing. I want to be number one. And she had no qualms with killing this girl. I think Snow White was 16, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
If you know her age and we're wrong, let us know in the comments.
Right.
But she didn't have a problem with taking Snow White or anybody out that got in her way. And what was funny is we were watching it, and when we saw the original concept for Maya in Wish, this woman, she had the vibes of the evil queen.
Right, they had nailed it.
Because when you saw her, she went and she was going to chase Asha down. She was engaged. She was in control. And it was
she went after the star.
This is such a wonderful homage to this. But she was her own character.
Right.
Now we know, oh well, not going to happen. But the evil queen here, yeah, she wasn't playing. And she was a badass. And she was evil. There was no misunderstanding. She wasn't a victim in any of this garbage. She said,
the story isn't true.
Like, I want my way, and I'm going to get it, and I don't care who the heck I got to take out for it.
Right, that's it.
Then you had the Seven Dwarves, who were really Seven Dwarves. And you miss,
again, and actually have personality.
Yes, personalities and fun, and they were all different. They were different characters. And Dopey should have been called Dummy. Sorry. But it was fun watching them, listening to them being voiced by the voice actors who we'll give a shout out to shortly. And how they each had their own way interacting with Snow White. And how they really were intent on protecting her. And we noticed that they told her, don't talk to strangers. Don't open the door. Don't talk to anyone. And Snow White,
just kept doing.
You want to give me an apple?
Oh no!
And that was the only thing we had a qualm with in this movie, that they made her brainless.
A little bit.
That she should not have opened the door nor talked to strangers like she was told.
Right, and that was really is a very minor thing. And we know about them doing that live action remake. And we can see them wanting to change a few things from here, but very little. If they want to change this, just have her say, okay, well, she doesn't trust a stranger. Easy to fix.
Right.
Not change the entire movie from the ground up and make a totally different film.
Right. And then here, of course, Snow White is beautiful, and she's sweet, and she's innocent, and she's waiting for the day her prince will come. Back when no one had a problem
with the prince.
With a woman wanting to have a princely man come to sweep her away. It didn't make her any less of a woman. Not in my opinion. It was fun. And we like being able to see this because they're not giving us this in movies anymore. And to me, it wasn't a reflection on Snow White. This was the time period. This was a fairy tale written in 1812. So why am I going to judge it on how things are looked at now?
Right.
And I, as a woman, don't have a problem with a man coming and whisking me off my feet, so hey. But we really liked the songs that she did. And the prince, we didn't have a problem with the prince.
Yeah, he was
handsome,
brilliant.
he gallant, and he came to save her. What we did have a problem with is understanding when we watched this movie at the end that Snow White technically was dead. That the dwarves put her in a glass coffin.
Yeah, it's a little
And they
creepy.
kept vigil at her. And she didn't deteriorate, and that when the prince came, he understood what had happened because it says in writing on the screen that he had heard about what happened with her, and he deliberately kissed a dead body. So that was kind of the only thing we were like, we didn't realize that after all these years of seeing it many, many times.
And it's like, okay, I can see them changing that, but that's, again, that's really it. Very minor things.
But it had a happy ending, and it wasn't meant to be any commentary on social or political.
It was just a little story.
Or anything. It was just reimagining of a grim fairy tale.
Right.
And I think they did a good job because they kept true to the essence, as people say, of the original story. But Walt Disney managed with the writers and producers to make it something that still, all of these years later, stands out as something being unique.
Right. And my one last comment on it is that I find it funny this movie was made in, you said
1937.
1937.
Well, it was released in 1937.
It was released in 1937. And they juggle, you have the Seven Dwarves and Snow White, you have the Prince, the Queens. Like you said, about, 10 characters, I think?
7, 8, 9, 11, including the huntsman.
Right, okay, so you have 11 characters in here. And for the time, about the time they start focusing on the dwarves and all 7, I find it funny that they could easily write 7 characters at one time, interacting with an 8th one easily, and give them all distinct personalities. And we go to 2023, and they can't write anybody with a personality now aside from the namesake.
Yeah. Fun fact before we lastly get to the voice actors is that for 55 years, this was the highest grossing animated film.
Wow.
55 years consecutively.
Wow.
So let's give a shout out to the voice cast. And the voice actors are actually, remember I asked you, where the credits, you said they're in the beginning? No. They were actually uncredited for this film.
Oh my god.
So let's give them a shout out. Even though it's over 100 years later, that's okay.
Okay.
Adriana Castellati is Snow White. Lucille Laverne is the Queen. Roy Atwell is Doc. Pinto Colvig is Grumpy. Otis Harlan is Happy. Scotty Matraw is Bashful. Billy Gilbert is Sneezy. Eddie Collins is Dopey. Harry Stockwell as the Prince. Maroney Olson as the Magic Mirror. And Stuart Buchanan as the Huntsman. I wanted to give a shout out because they didn't get any credit. And even though, again, this is so many years later, we love to give credit to voice actors, and they did a fantastic job. And again, it's still a standout. It's still a fun watch, and it's still unique. You've seen many versions done by many companies, both independent, small, large. You've seen musicals. You've seen live-action movies. We've seen everything being done with Snow White.
Right.
But this still stands out as not only the first, but also as a unique version that will never be done again.
Right.
Not only for reasons that are social and reasons due to pop culture and changes in how women and men are viewed and society's viewed as a whole, but it's going to be the only one of its kind forever.
Right.
And I'm really grateful that we have the ability to go to a library or go on Amazon in some places and buy it.
Right.
And to be able to see it, because it's a testament to what Walt Disney did for animation forever.
Right.
And we're very grateful. So if you've seen Snow White, we know you have. Let us know in the comments below your thoughts. And if you haven't, go to your local library. All of the classes are there. Or if you want to own it, go on to Amazon and purchase it. Don't know how much it is, but it'd be a great addition to your collection if you like the Disney classics.
Yes, and if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos, favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely, and thanks again for joining us, for subscribing, for sharing our videos. You know, as always, you are
special. Thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace, and see you for more Disney classics this week.